Hey, Brats. This is Ben and Robin coming to you from the studio after recording this episode. Oh, hi, Luffy. And Luffy here to interfere.
He's so cute.
My dear. Ben, has it been an interesting experience for you at all, like, listening back to these episodes after we record them?
Yeah, especially because our neuros do diverge. A lot of times I'll just start talking and I can't remember what I even said. And then we go back and it's like, I did say that.
There's so many things. Yeah, exactly. Like, I get to see the pure uncut footage before it gets edited. And it's absolutely fascinating. Like, first of all, there's episodes that I don't remember us really going anywhere with it. I'm like, that felt like kind of a boring one. Then I play it back and we're just like crying through the whole thing. And it's really emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And we have PTSD. So it's just like gone.
So
like,
good at memory
the good
loss.
stuff, like we just forgot.
Yeah.
This episode in particular was interesting because I do a lot of talking about my own sexuality and how I don't have a really like clear definition for it. And then when I watched it back to edit, I was just like, oh, I'm just like homoromantic demisexual.
Mm-hmm.
Like as soon as I watched it, I was like, oh, I was able to just ID myself because I was like talking about it and kind of like spacing out or whatever. So if you're into like the fancy terms, like the pluses of the LGBTQ plus, that basically just means like I'm romantically attracted to other women and I don't really think about sex unless it's somebody that I really love, which is one specific person.
I'm pretty much there, except for I'm homoromantic demisexual, but like demi.
Yeah, exactly.
Demisexual.
Yeah. But I feel like I had a lot of confusion about that when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because I was like, even in my journey, figuring out gender stuff, like that was actually easier in some ways than the sexuality stuff. Especially when I was a teenager, I was like, everybody's like thinking and talking about sex all the time. I'm like, I don't really care about it. I was always like, I'm fine with sex, but like, It's not something I think about. Like, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it.
Yeah.
And I did.
When I was a teenager, I thought about it a lot, and now I just don't. Unless it's because like there's an opportunity to slip in a dirty joke, and then I take that opportunity unless I'm having a very bad day.
Yeah. The asexual / demisexual urge to tell like terrible sex jokes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What a cutie.
Yeah, this is a handsome little goober.
All right. Well, we now return to the Brat Pod already in progress. Hi, I'm Robin and I'm trans.
Hi, I'm Ben and I'm trans.
This is Ben and Robin are trans.
And super gay.
And we are so super gay.
Yes.
Today, we are going to talk all about our sexuality. We're going to finally come out to all you guys.
Always coming out.
But before we do that, let's get into our weekly moment of trans joy, which I'm going to do this time.
Yay.
My moment of trans joy this week is very short and sweet, actually. But yesterday, I was called ma'am 3 times.
That's awesome.
By like youths, too. So I'm like, yay, children are the future.
Kids have impressed me a lot.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of them.
Yeah. They're still dumb because they're kids. But I feel pretty good about this generation, what they're going to become. I'm not one of those old people who are always like, kids these days, they're terrible. I'm like, no, I think they're better people than we are, honestly. Or they will be.
Yeah, I've had the same experience with working with middle schoolers, which like middle schoolers are still middle schoolers and they're a lot, but they are much more socially aware and observant than people of our generations and older.
Yeah. And there's like a funny combination of the good and bad because like I'll have some coworkers who are like teen boys be like, I'm only working with girls today. This is so annoying. I'm like, thanks, but also maybe don't.
Like, thanks for affirming me, but you're lucky.
Yeah. They do a lot of things that are like affirming through misogyny.
Yeah.
So we also wanted to invite you guys to share your moments of trans joy too. First of all, get in on our Discord.
Yes, please.
And there's a section in there specifically for sharing your moments of joy, your moments of gender euphoria, just anything really affirming that's happened to you. And in the future, we want to share some of those in the podcast. So it's not just Ben and I relaying stuff that happened to us every time, but
yeah,
as we said 100 times, the whole mission here is to share different trans voices and experiences. So help us share your trans voices through our voice.
Yeah, and if you want to share a moment of trans joy but don't want us to say it on the podcast, just write that in with your message. And if there's a specific name you want us to use that isn't your Discord display name, just write that down too, so we can make sure that we are as affirming as possible and that we aren't sharing anything that you don't want recorded.
And honestly, we want to hear them either way, even if we're not going to share it. It really helps us build each other up, like in the community, to just hear nice things.
Yeah, we want to be your hype woman and hype man, or hype gal and hype silly guy, depending on how we feel that day.
Yeah,
what words we want. But like I want to see what good's going on in the world for everybody. And if you want us to share it, I'd love to.
All right, so let's get started on the big gay train. You want to go on a big gay train? That sounds fun, actually.
The grain.
The grain. I think it's on Fire Island. I don't know.
Sounds pretty flaming, just like me.
All right, let's start this off with a little variant of like how we ask people's pronouns and everything. And so, Ben, when it comes to your sexuality, how would you describe yourself?
I mean, broadly, I'd say gay, because like for me, I consider that an umbrella term. I would consider myself theoretically biromantic, demi to asexual, which means that I pretty much think everyone's a cutie pie, but I want to have sex with pretty much no one. But for the most part, I am attracted to masculine to androgynous people as far as romantic relationships. But as of the last few years, I would mostly call myself Chris Romantic because I love my husband very much.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Yeah.
I always say I'm just an Aaron sexual.
Yeah.
I'm basically just into her, but usually if people ask, I just say I'm a lesbian because I've always been attracted to women. But I've also been like, I wouldn't call myself asexual, but I've always been like much more romantically driven than sexually driven. I'm not the most sexual person in the world, but one of the best experiences in a relationship for me is just cuddles and stuff like that. I love that. It's like,
it's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Emotional intimacy, which sexuality can like also contribute to emotional intimacy, but it's not required.
Yeah, and it's like very much different for everybody. I think there's stereotypes about trans people being hypersexual and stuff like that. But I know so many trans people who are asexual or just like anywhere else on the spectrum. I've met a few who are just like super thirsty, but
yeah,
most of the people that I've interacted with are just like pretty chill people.
Yeah, it's like any community. There's going to be hypersexual people and there's going to be asexual people and anywhere in between. And there's going to be kinky people and there's going to be vanilla people. But like, it's very important to me, and I think both of us, to explicitly state that being trans is not a fetish thing. You can be trans and have fetishes, sure. But like, if you're transgender, that's just who you are. It's not really about what you're doing in the bedroom inherently. For most people, I would say.
Yeah, they're definitely like separate things altogether. Like they're not intrinsically linked to each other.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of times there's an assumption that if you're a trans woman, then you're attracted to men, or if you're a trans man, then you are attracted to women. It's exactly the opposite for both of us.
Yes.
And so I don't remember the numbers. I heard them somewhere, but I think for trans people, it's almost like a half and half mix between if you're gay or straight too, I guess. Also, like a ton of us are bi, pansexual and stuff like that. there's a lot broader of an experience when it comes to the general trans community. And I wonder if a lot of that just comes in to like, we just have always thought about gender a little bit differently and don't necessarily have the same understanding of it as cis people.
Yeah, like for me, I've pretty much only had serious relationships with men and non-binary or agender people, but the gender aspect is just not that important to me because I know firsthand that can change. So like, I'd rather be with someone who I connect with, and then if they go on a gender journey, I want to be along for that ride.
Yeah, for sure.
Not that that's like a thing I have to think about right now because like I'm with Chris and he is cis.
Mm-hmm.
If he ever thought he wanted to be a beautiful tall woman, though, I would fully support that. Like
he'd be gorgeous.
He looks exactly like his grandma. So like we already know he'd be gorgeous, but I don't think that's in the future for him.
No.
It would be really fun to have a tall wife, but that's okay.
Yeah, and I think when it comes down to it for me, the most important thing is like who the person is.
Exactly.
Not necessarily what their gender is.
And that's just for us. Like there, of course, is going to be all sorts of types of attraction within the trans community. We just happen to have a lot of overlap.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess we talked a little bit about how it relates to our gender, and I'm sure anyone who's finding this might already know, but just to be explicitly clear, sexuality and gender are two different things. Like gender is who you are, and then sexuality is who you want to be with, and like there's no relationship there. There's no automatic default settings for that.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of transphobia is rooted in people's fears about our sexuality. And like a lot of the stereotypes too, just come down to like, they're all just pervs or like...
Or trying to trick someone.
Yeah, that is like a huge thing. Especially for trans women.
Yes.
Because like there's like this really common stereotype that I hope is slowly dying. I don't know, but... There's a stereotype that like trans women are just really gay men who are like so into men that they are like, I'm a woman now or something like that. Or that they're somehow doing it to trick straight men into having sex with them or something like that.
That's just too much work.
Yeah. It's a lot of work. Yeah. It's crazy. It's like we talked about with the bathroom issues. It just seems like a lot of work for somebody to be a creep.
Yeah.
There's easier ways to be a creep.
Yeah. It just makes no sense to me that people would think that. And I think that just comes from like insecurity, misogyny, internalized homophobia and transphobia, and just fear, which I think we need to move past that. We need to move past the fear. Yeah.
I think there's also a lot of confusion from people outside of the queer community. There's a lot of confusion between like drag and trans. And I think a lot of times people like mix the ideas together.
Which there is overlap, but it's not the same thing.
No.
Like if you see a trans woman who's also a drag queen, for the most part in their day-to-day lives, they are not dressing or doing makeup like they would do when they're performing. It's completely different. Also, for the record, anyone can do drag. Drag is for everyone.
It is, yeah. But it's like a very different concept than being trans, because like it's specifically trying to do like a caricature, super feminine or super masculine or whatever.
Or like, just super interesting if you're going for androgyny. You're trying to go for something that is a performance.
Yeah, exactly. I heard an interview on a podcast once with a trans man who was a drag king.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually have a friend who is a trans man drag king. We should probably ask on. His drag name is Willie Wank Me.
I love that.
Yeah. Shout out to Willie Wank Me from, I think he's in Portland now. Friends move around a lot, but.
What would your drag name be?
Ophelia Dickman.
Wow. That's really good.
Yeah. One of my online friends bestowed that name upon me. So his best friend's last name is Dickman and was having a daughter, and they were trying to convince him to name his daughter Ophelia Dickman.
I love that.
And I was like, can I have that? And he said yes. So yeah. Would you ever do drag kinging? It'd probably be a little dysphoric. Or drag queening.
Yeah. I don't think I would do either, honestly.
It's not for everyone.
It's just not my vibe.
I'm super into drag. So I've never been to a live drag show, but I'm one of those horrible gays that has been watching RuPaul's Drag Race since the first season. But I refuse to watch it through proper channels because I have a lot of problems with RuPaul. So don't arrest me. But like I could just borrow, like go to a friend's house and watch it maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not like super into drag. Like I just don't really follow it and stuff like that. But everybody assumes that I am and will just like ask me questions about or bring up famous drag queens and talk about Drag Race and stuff like that. I'm like, I know you think that I know a lot about this, but I like really don't. It's just like not the experience that I'm coming from.
Which is okay.
Yeah.
Not all queer people love drag.
Mm-hmm.
I know several queer people who just aren't into it and they tolerate me and I appreciate them for that.
I do support it though. And I think it's super cool. And it's like a legit art form and everything.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So much work.
Mm-hmm. It really is. I don't think everybody realizes how much work it is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
This might be like a weird random question, but I was wondering like, if somebody randomly asks you about your identity, what's the first answer that normally comes to mind? Is it related to your sexuality or your gender?
Gender for me. I would just say I'm a trans man just because while I've covered before that I do have a lot of non-binariness in me, I don't really focus on that right now. So I would just say I'm a trans man. I don't really think about my sexuality other than the umbrella term gay.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
You call yourself gay all the time.
I do.
But it's fun.
But like, I only use gay in a positive way. And I'll just be like, I'm feeling very gay today.
Yeah.
And it's like a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think mostly it's gender that I go to first, but it really does switch up a lot randomly, which is interesting. I guess that's why I'm bringing up the question, because it's funny. Sometimes like I identify more as a trans woman. Sometimes I identify more as just a lesbian. And there were even times like when I was like a teenager where I was just like, I don't know, the way I self-conceptualize, sometimes I just thought about being a lesbian more than I thought about being trans. I think that also kind of like, I think that term does express more than just gay does because it's very specific.
Yeah, because like these days gay really is more of an umbrella term, unless you're like a cis man. And then because I don't know, just especially because I'm not like a fully binary trans man. It just doesn't feel as precise to me.
Mm-hmm.
But lesbian is also an interesting thing because like most people would assume that woman is included in there, but there are trans masc lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's a very nuanced, interesting moment in the whole label system right now.
Yeah, it's a term that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And ultimately, whatever you feel like describes yourself the best is cool. Like, however you want to express yourself. There are people who have very strong opinions about it. I think more so older queer people. Yeah. Especially lesbians who have been out for like 40 years or whatever. I feel like a lot of times people who are gay and lesbian have had to fight against homophobia so much. And especially if they're older, that struggle is such a huge part of their lives.
Well, and they live through the AIDS crisis.
Yes.
And like that's traumatic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so much. And even if you didn't, it's like a huge thing that they had to go through. And so they can be really protective of their own queer identities a lot of the time.
Yeah. I've noticed a lot of transphobia coming specifically from cis gay men in a lot of queer spaces, which is like their own thing they've got to deal with. I don't necessarily have time for it. And I think from where I'm coming from, I just think it's important that people can define what labels do fit them best, or if they don't want to live with labels. Like, I don't think it's my place to ever tell anyone who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of the issue of transphobia in like gay and queer communities, which happens more than we would like.
Yeah.
In general, would you say you overall feel welcome in gay spaces or unwelcome in gay spaces, or sometimes one and sometimes the other?
For me, it's generational. So, like, I feel welcome in gay spaces that are catered towards millennials or younger. Not that I spend any time really in, like, spaces for teens or whatever, but, like, if I'm amongst peers, I feel welcome. But then when it comes to, like, Gen X and baby boomers, I don't have that automatic feeling of acceptance. I kind of have to vibe check. How about you?
Yeah, I do kind of feel the same way. As a trans person, like being in a queer space is a weird experience. Because like if you go to like a gay bar, I just feel like I'm always reading how people are reading me, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because like a lot of gay men might assume that I'm like doing drag or something like that or not. And then I don't know.
I don't
know how I'm trying to.
Interesting. Because like you don't do like drag makeup. You do very like everyday gal on the town makeup. So I find it interesting that people would read you as doing drag.
I don't think they do either. I think I just think it.
Yeah. Because like drag makeup is a very specific amount. And that is a lot.
Yeah.
Which is really cool and beautiful. Yeah. But it's not what you do. Yeah, and what you do is also cool and beautiful.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I'm not like going to gay clubs all the time or whatever. Like,
Same.
But I think when I'm in a queer space, I will gravitate towards any lesbians or any other trans people. But yeah, it's just something I think about.
Yeah, I've noticed like it's problematic as a concept, like being able to tell someone is trans sometimes. Like some people are stealth and sometimes you can't tell. But like if I see like, oh, that's another trans person, I feel so much safer, which can backfire. Like, just like any group of people, there's going to be great people and there's going to be less great people in the group. But I just feel less on guard if I have at least one other person who I know is in my community nearby.
Yeah, I think overall I feel safer with queer people than cis-het people because like, obviously there are issues with transphobia in queer spaces for sure, but I never have the feeling that it's going to lead to violence or something like that. It might lead to a gay man kind of being a dick to me.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I'm at risk of violence in like a gay or lesbian space. Yeah,
like straight men might get a hang up about thinking that you're trying to trick them or something, but gay men are just at worst hopefully annoyed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Which is like, it sucks, but that's survivable. Violence is not always survivable. Sometimes, though, it can be violent without being physical violence. It just really depends on the situation. And you never know what you're going to get when you walk out your door, which is why I don't spend a lot of time in queer spaces or any other spaces that aren't like in someone's home or my own. Because it's just safer.
Yeah. Also, we're old and we don't want to go out and do stuff necessarily.
Like, why can't I just sit on the couch and watch Dropout and laugh and crochet and pet my cats and eat some Trader Joe's frozen food, not sponsored, unless you want to give me money. Or just like free frozen food, because that's one of my favorite things when I'm tired, which is almost always. Yeah.
I wonder what we would have been like, though, if we were out when we were like early 20s or late teens or whatever. I was never somebody to go to the club or whatever anyway.
I've been to a club like once, and it was St. Patrick's Day before I came out, the night of a breakup. And I was like having a very bad night. And a bunch of my friends were just going to Adams Morgan in DC. And I tagged along and I took a picture with like a sexy fitness model woman who was just wearing bottoms and then body paint. And she totally thought I was a lesbian, which is fair because I dressed like one. And like, that's like the only time I've been to clubs in my life.
Yeah.
And I was 22.
Yeah. Probably like once for me too or something. Not my scene at all.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, good for people who want to go there. It's just, maybe it's my neurodivergence. Maybe it's my PTSD. Maybe it's my anxiety. I just want to be chill. I want to be comfy and I want to be sitting down.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah. Another transphobia issue I've noticed in queer communities is non-binary erasure. Like I've seen a lot of the older generations, like trans and cis, being like, I just don't get this they, them thing. Like they're trying to ruin the English language as if like Shakespeare didn't use thou. Shakespeare used singular thou.
Yeah.
It's not new.
It's a great pronoun.
It is.
Nobody's going by thou.
Yeah, thou thine.
Love that.
But I mean, it's been a thing for centuries. And it's also something that people do every day. Like, oh no, I found a phone on this bus. I hope they have Find My iPhone turned on, you know?
Yeah. Or like, I just got a phone call from my doctor. Oh, what did they say?
Exactly. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
But people just don't like it when they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, understanding is not a requirement. If you knew everything, then why aren't you a millionaire? Because if you knew everything, you would be a millionaire. You don't know everything, and it's okay not to know everything.
Yeah. I think people tend to not be great at dealing with gray spaces to begin with. And I think there's a lot of similarities between how people view non-binary people to how people view bisexuals and pansexuals. There's just like such a delegitimizing, and people just don't believe you, I guess.
Yeah. Like, if you are a bi woman and you're with a bi man, you aren't just straight now. Like, you're still bi. Just because your relationship is straight passing doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to be attracted to any combination of gender identities isn't a real thing. Genders, sexualities. And like, I'm just thinking about a specific couple I know in real life where it's two cis people who are bi, who are opposite gender, but they're still bi.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll always still be bi.
Yeah.
It's just annoying.
Yeah, a lot of bi erasure.
And just, yeah, bi or non-bi. Nary. It sucks to feel erased. And like, as someone who isn't on hormone replacement therapy yet, like, it's so easy for my identity to feel erased.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why sometimes I get euphoria from being they, them to by strangers, because it's like, at least you're picking something up that I'm putting down.
It's an improvement. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was like just starting to transition, I did get called they, them more often than I do now. And like the first couple times, it felt good. It was very affirming. And then like pretty quickly after that, it started not feeling good. I'm like, just call me she. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a euphoria both from like living as your real gender, but also from like not being seen as the other gender.
Yeah. And they're two different levels. Like, it's mini euphoria and then euphoria.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a sneeze.
We're keeping that in.
All right. That's
real trans struggles.
Ugh, it's so hard. Hey, my life is better than my husband, who is sitting outside of our new home waiting for a cleaning man to fog the house for mold. So I would be sneezing a lot more if I was there right now.
Mm-hmm. He's having another difficult gay experience.
My poor husband. It's okay. We have patio furniture. Like, we haven't moved in yet, but we have patio furniture and an umbrella, so he'll be fine.
I'm excited for your new queer space.
It's going to be so queer. Can't wait.
Yeah. It's going to be so safe.
Everyone's going to be valid at my house, so except for my father-in-law.
Yeah, not valid.
He's not valid ever. That should be an episode in itself.
It will be.
Yeah.
It absolutely will be. I'm trying to think of more stories and stuff that we could get into.
I could tell a story about the last time I tried to date a woman, I guess.
Oh, okay.
So back when I was on the dating apps living in California, I had like Bumble, and I was just like, anyone, give me everything. I'm up for it. And so like the reason why I say I'm attracted to everyone in theory, but I only have history dating men and androgynous people, is because like the one time I tried to start a potential relationship with a cis woman, it just turned into me wanting to be her friend. And like, I really liked hanging out with her, and I had a lot of fun with her. And she was so cool. And like, I just wish I would have had those romantic feelings, because it would have been great. Mm-hmm. But like, it was instant friend zone for me, which she probably felt the same way about me, because like, if the vibes aren't there, the vibes aren't there. But I don't have that much extensive experience like trying to date cis women or even trans women. Not that I wouldn't. I probably would feel more of a connection with a trans woman than a cis woman, just because of that shared experience. Mm-hmm. But it's just never happened. I've definitely like dated assigned male at birth non-binary people. That was great. But like with the one cis woman, her name's Sadie. I doubt she'll ever hear this. I don't even remember her last name. She was so cool. She had a collection of like wooden carving genitalia of all shapes, sizes, you know.
I remember you telling me about this.
Yeah. I never even, like, we only met up in public spaces. It never got very far. I'm so sad I didn't get to see her genitalia collection because I just think that's such an interesting thing. But we have a mutual friend who has a genitalia carving collection now.
Yeah,
so like I get to see
all those genitals.
the genitals.
Yeah.
I just think they're interesting. They're like snowflakes.
They're interesting.
They're all unique. I don't want to see flesh ones, just like carved ones.
You are so asexual.
Art is cool.
Yeah. No, we were talking recently about what is it with asexuals and telling constant sex jokes.
It's just funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
I should have worn my bussy shirt.
The pussy.
It's a picture of my cat, who is a boy. So he's a boy and a pussy. And then it says bussy under the drawing of him. And it's from the Jackbox game, TKO, not sponsored. And so I bought the shirt and I almost wore it. But instead I'm wearing my crab shirt, which is fine. I love crabs too.
That's great.
I've heard every crab joke there is because I'd be like at a science conference and they'd be like, oh, what's your thesis on? And I'd be like, oh, I'm studying decapod crustaceans, explicitly crabs. And then it'd be like, oh, so you got crabs, huh? And it's like, I've heard every iteration. If anyone has a unique crab joke, I would love to hear it. Put it in the Discord. But yeah, sex jokes are funny.
Jokes in there. Yeah. Speaking of genitalia, I don't know what I was about to say. Let's just speak of genitalia.
Genitalia.
Yeah. Sex is interesting as a trans person.
It really is.
Just like your relationship with your own body makes things weird in ways that are different from everybody.
And it's even different within, as we say every episode, there's varying degrees of the effect of being trans on your sexual life, activity, comfort level. And I don't know how much of my sexuality is because that's how I am, or it's just my relationship with my body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I'm not going to get like detailed about my sex life or anything like that, but like I was always kind of dissociated from my body in a lot of ways because it wasn't like the body that I necessarily wanted. I don't know. Being trans, you're going to have a weird relationship with your body.
Yeah, like this is not me trying to make a sex joke. It's just the first example I thought of. But like dysphoria is kind of like those Fisher-Price toys for kids where you have the different shaped blocks and the different shaped holes. And it's like trying to put like a star-shaped block in a square-shaped hole. And that is not me trying to talk about genitalia.
And that is how trans sex works.
That is it. Yep. But like, if your body doesn't fit your soul, then like your relationship with your body is just going to be kind of funky.
I think maybe it's not even necessarily my body so much as it is like knowing that the person that you're with is seeing you as like the incorrect gender, possibly. I guess that's more so before coming out and everything. But still, like it's a thought that I've had before, like you think you're having sex with a man or something like that.
Yeah.
And that like kind of gets in your head, I guess.
That's something that I know I'm going to end up talking about during a medical or OBGYN episode. But like I've always had a problem with people looking at my genitalia to the point where like I had a surgery once and they wanted me to use a bedpan. And I was so hopped up on meds because I had used like a sedative mixed with a nerve block instead of general anesthesia. And I was like out of my mind, but all I could do was yell, "Don't look at my junk, don't look at my junk." Like I wouldn't even call it by its name. And everyone just laughed and laughed. And I couldn't even use the bedpan. Like they got it under me and I could not use it because my relationship with my anatomy is just so disjointed. Mm-hmm. Like I need to be in complete privacy to be that vulnerable. And I had to pee so bad. Like that's the most I've ever had to pee in my life because they had been doing a lot of IV fluids because they had fit me in. It was a military doctor. They'd already canceled the surgery like 3 times. And my mom had to drive me. And she was like, if you don't do the surgery on this last scheduled date, I'm going to lose my job. You make it work. So they had to fit me in. So they kept me on IV fluids. And so I had so much fluids in me. And like, because of my relationship with my anatomy, I could not use a bedpan. It was awful. Mm. And so, like, if I couldn't even pee, just try to, like, imagine trying to have sex feeling like that. Like, it's the conditions have to be very perfect, and that's not really a thing that happens. Which is, I'm fine. I'm fine with it, and my husband says he's fine with it, and he's not a liar, so he's fine with it.
Yeah.
I really hope. I have insecurities about it a lot, and I check in with him a lot, but he's very into enthusiastic consent. So if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Yeah.
He's so
absolutely.
cute.
Yeah. He's the best.
Yeah.
This is weird, but I feel like, I don't know why, but I feel like I have less bottom dysphoria after coming out than before. I still have it for sure.
Yeah.
But I've been wondering like why that is exactly. I think maybe it's just because the rest of me is looking more like feminine.
So it doesn't matter as much, maybe.
Maybe.
Because like everything else feels more correct. So, and that's just like one part of you. And like if you have 100 parts and 99 of them feel better, then maybe that one doesn't matter as much. That's just me guessing. I don't even know if I would describe mine as bottom dysphoria. I just don't like it. Like, I don't think I would be that interested in people looking at it if I was born with a penis. I just think I feel a disconnection with that part of my body.
Yeah. It doesn't feel like my body.
Yeah.
This is a feeling that I've always had, and I never heard anybody else talk about it. And then I was reading everything you ever wanted to know about trans. And there was just one random, almost like throwaway paragraph in it that stood out to me because I was like, I've always thought about this. And this is the first time I've heard anybody else talk about it.
I'm so excited because I haven't read this book yet.
Yes. Amping you up.
Yeah.
I always felt like I had almost like phantom limb syndrome with my own body. Now that I've been on HRT for a while, I have boobs.
Yay.
And yay. It's funny because I'm like, in my head, they were always there, and now they're like physically there too. I feel like that's kind of how things work with the rest of my body. I'm like, it's there, but it's not really there. You know?
Yeah, it's like quantum body.
Oh, but the thing I read in the book was, this is only one study, so I'm not stating this as like a medical fact or whatever, but somebody did a study trying to see if there was a link between people with phantom limb syndrome and trans people with body dysphoria. And I don't know, they did like brain scans or something. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but they said there was like a very similar connection, like it was the same part of the brain being triggered between the same people.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. I was like, so this thing I always felt is kind of like scientific too.
Yeah, there's at least some actual support for it. Okay, now I need to find this paper and look at the sample size and the statistical significance, because that's my realm. It's like, as soon as I hear about a study, I'm like, I need to see the sample size. I need to see the statistical significance very badly.
Yeah.
So to get an idea of how powerful this data set is, because I'm just curious, like, how supported is it? And if not, how are we funding this to be studied further so we can know? Yeah,
exactly.
That is so cool.
There's extensive footnotes too, so we can find that. Like I was saying, I always like, in my own mental conception of my body, I guess, there were always boobs there, but there weren't physically until there were. But I do remember when I was going through puberty the first time, part of me was always waiting for chest growth. Like I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I also felt like it was going to happen at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not talking about just like wanting it to happen. It's like there was a big part of just the wiring of my brain, maybe, that was expecting this thing to happen, and then it didn't happen.
Yeah, because like it was what was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Like it's what would feel right to happen.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I think when I was really young, I really wanted boobs because I thought that would make me, I think I said that in your other podcast. I felt like that might make me feel better, as if maybe what's wrong is that I'm not a woman. Maybe if I was a woman, I'd feel better. Then it happened, and then it was just too much.
Too much woman.
too much booba.
Yeah.
And then I had to like go to specialty stores that imported bras from Europe that were like $90 for the ugliest, most beige bra. And it was like, all that for this?
Yeah.
You know? It was terrible. I don't really get the phantom limb feeling because, like, my bottom anatomy just doesn't matter to me. And then I can't conceptualize like phantom empty space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And maybe that's just the way my brain works. I would love to know what it's like to have no booba. I like to say booba today.
Booba.
It's not normally a thing I do, but today it just feels right.
Yeah.
A few months from now, I'm going to hear this and be like, what was I doing? But the phantom limb concept is so interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of makes me jealous. I don't know what that's like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. But I guess like when it comes to like the bottom dysphoria aspect of it, it's like, I guess it's not so much phantom limb as phantom no limb.
Exactly, which is so hard to think about.
This is really weird to talk about.
Yeah, and if you end up wanting to edit it out because you...
Oh, no, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Because like I don't think any trans person owes talking about their anatomy, but it's still an interesting topic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's very interesting.
And I'm comfortable talking about my anatomy. Like, it is what it is. And I'm sure that it might be helpful for other trans people to know how us two feel about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe that's part of why I have slightly less dysphoria around it now. Is just that it's like it doesn't exist, but it does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Bodies are weird.
Bodies are so freaking weird.
Yeah.
Even if you're not trans, bodies are weird. Like, if you really think about how the digestive system works or how, like, breathing can put oxygen in your blood, like, bodies are just freaking weird. It's so weird. I love it.
It's crazy.
And if you think mammals are weird, invertebrates are weirder.
Crustaceans.
Yeah, they're so weird.
Especially when they smoke.
You know, life is fucking relentless.
Love that.
If you think people genitals are weird, the crabs I studied, the males have 2 genitals, and then the females also have 2. They have 2 sets. So that way, if they have a clutch of eggs, they can have multiple sets of genes. So if there is a susceptibility to an illness, not all of their offspring are lost. So crabs are weird.
Crabs are weird, man.
People are weird, but crabs might be weirder.
Oh, man. Do we need a whole episode about biology?
I mean...
Gay frogs.
I would need to consult with my besties, Kishante and Kate, because they are biology professors, and they could really, really give us some biology info. Because, like, I'm so far removed from it now. I haven't been in the master's program since, like, 2018, so... Somebody
on TikTok had a whole theory about why Jurassic Park is actually a trans movie.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's gay frogs.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, shout out to B.D. Wong, who is the weird scientist guy who did that. He went to San Francisco State, and he's also the voice of Captain Shang, the talking voice of Captain Shang from Mulan, which is a trans movie, as is Hercules. And I'd love to talk about that. That's my hot take. Hercules and Mulan are both trans. Both trans mask stories, in my opinion. I'm a silly little guy.
Silly little guy. All right. Well, it's been fun talking about sex awkwardly.
Yeah, we've never talked about sex that in depth before. Because, like, we are very platonic friends.
Yeah. But I haven't with other people either.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So... I've been your incredibly gay trans host, Robin.
I've been your incredibly grands gay trans host, Ben.
Grands. Thanks for joining us. We'll see y'all next time.
Oh, another day, another sleigh. Oh, how we do that?